Hey, welcome to Fountain of Light Ministries. And I've got something I want to share with you people. I've alluded to a few things in previous videos. And one of the things was that I was living in a loveless marriage for over 30 years. Um, and I really hated my situation. I felt like I had no say in my life. Things were just, I don't know, they were just falling into place. And I felt like I was completely out of control. I hated my situation. I hated where I was living. I hated my spouse. I hated my life. I hated myself. And things got so bad that I formed a plan to join the army and then die overseas. I figured if I had just committed suicide at home that I would end up looking like a coward and, you know, I'd look like a just a weak man to my children. So I figured, you know what? Let me go overseas and die a hero. So I joined the army, and I had an opportunity before I deployed to sign up for more life insurance policies, additional life insurance policies. The original was for $450,000 if you pass away, and I signed up for a total of four of those. In addition to that, there was going to be a $70,000 payment and a $40,000 payment that was going to be given to my wife within 48 hours of my death. And that's directly for the funeral benefits. So, yeah, my family was going to be set. So I went overseas with the feeling that I was worth more dead than alive. And so I did everything I could to not come home. Um, Signed up for the dangerous missions. I even created a mission once um, that was practically suicide. I mean, walking through the streets in the middle of the night, sticking your head in holes looking for bombs. That's what I did. And that's what I wanted to do. I was hoping to find one and, just see the bright light, end it all. That was my hope. But God had other plans. Um, I was injured. I was, gosh, shot at. Bullets just went over my head. There were a lot of instances where I should have died and I didn't. And I was constantly disappointed. When I came home, I missed combat so much that I focused on my next deployment and didn't even focus on my family. And my hatred for myself, my hatred for my situation just continued and it just festered and never really got better. Um, at this point in my marriage, I had already tried to leave twice. Um, Between deployments, I tried to leave again and I moved out. I moved in with an army buddy of mine and I just wanted to get divorced. Um, After the second deployment, where I had an RPG hit my truck right where I was and basically just bounce off, I should have taken that as a sign that God really had something more in mind for me. Um, and then the very next day, I had an RPG pass right by me, and that was crazy. I should have been blown in half, but the guy missed. Um, I went home and decided to, maybe I'll give this family thing a try. I left the army. Um, decided to focus on just raising my kids and try to be a good husband. During this entire time, I was a Buddhist. And every time I went to the temple, I would pray for three things: to be a good husband, to be a good father, and to be a good manager slash employee, whatever, a good worker. That's what I was focusing on. That's what I was meditating on. And I was a good manager. I was a good father. But for some reason, I was never a good husband. Um, I did everything wrong. Anything that you can do to be a bad husband, then that's what I did. I ignored her. I don't know. And so many times she told me that even when you're in bed with me, I feel like I'm alone. And the crazy thing is, I felt the same way. She was right next to me, and I felt like I was sleeping alone. And speaking of sleeping, there were many nights where I couldn't even sleep. The pain in my chest was so bad that I would go into the kitchen and just grab some vodka, rum, whatever I had available, and would just drink so much so fast that I was just, too drunk to do anything else other than sleep. And how that's how I got along. All I did was just numb the pain. And that was my life for many years. And during this period, there were a few more times where my wife and I tried to get divorced, but every single time something got in the way and or fixed the situation, and we both decided not to get divorced. Um, it was a total of 7 attempts to get a divorce. Um, this last time, I was absolutely convinced that I was going to get what I wanted. Um, I had found a position that I really, really wanted. In fact, it was a dream of mine. Um, I wanted it more than anything. Anything. I wanted it more than family. I wanted more than anything you can imagine. I was willing to turn my back on not just my wife and kids, but anyone, my parents, my siblings, anyone that would get in the way of this position, because I wanted it that badly. And when I say it was a dream position, I really mean it. This is something that I had dreamt about for so many years. And I finally worked up the nerve to try out for it. And I got a resounding yes. Um, Lots of phone calls and personal interviews. I traveled to North Carolina um, to meet the bigwigs. I found out that I was a person they were looking for, and I was so excited. I had an apartment set up. Um, I was ready to move. Um, I had already packed. All I needed was for my wife to sign the divorce papers, and I'd be on my way because I did not want her around me. And so for weeks, I tried to convince her to just, sign and let me go. Um, before there was a point in this where my daughter, who had come to visit from out of state, told me, "Why don't you just leave? You've abused mom so much that you just need to go." And that really shocked me because all this time I thought I was the victim. I thought I was the one that had sacrificed everything I wanted to be a father and to raise this family. For 30 years I was in a marriage that I didn't want to be in, and I figured this is finally my chance to not only get out of this marriage but to end up where I wanted to be. And all this time, like I said, I thought I was the victim, and I never realized I was the bad guy in this story. I was the one that was causing all of these problems. But that was just the first hint. Um, the very next day, my daughter and her family left, and my wife and I were alone at home. And I was in the kitchen, and I says, "Listen, just sign the papers, and I can go. You can keep the house, you can keep everything else. I don't care. I just want the clothes I'm packing, a few items, and I just want to go." She walked out and then came back. And this is a woman that had been a lifelong Buddhist. And what she said next completely floored me. She said, "All I ever wanted was for you to lead me to Jesus Christ." My jaw dropped. I had no idea where those words were coming from. I had no clue. But I recognized that that wasn't my wife talking. God was speaking through her. And I walked out of the house, and I remember just looking up at the sky and saying, "Okay, God, that's you talking. I know this is you talking." And I started to realize that I had been failing my wife this entire time. I knew that I was not leading my wife spiritually. I was not the true leader of the home. Um, and I know that I was too selfish to even see things from my wife's point of view. I was dismissive. I was short with her all the time. Um, always jumping to conclusions before I even let her finish a sentence, just assuming I know where she was going to go and always assuming that it was wrong. And it reminds me of a Bible verse, um, 1 Peter 3:7, and I'm going to read it here. It says, "Husbands, likewise dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together for the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered." And let me tell you, that one really just punched me in the face because I then understood why my prayers were being hindered. It was because I wasn't honoring my wife. It was because deep inside, We weren't together in this. I I was not protecting her. I was not shielding her, not from outside dangers, but I didn't shield her from me. I was the one thing that I should have been protecting my wife from. I was making her life miserable. And I was always angry because she didn't respect me. Well, I wasn't loving her. So why why would she respect me if I wasn't even showing her love? And to be honest, I was just a horrible to be around. Um, Another Bible verse that popped into my head is Ephesians 5:25. And I know you guys have heard this one before. It says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself to her, or for her." I should have loved my wife enough to have died for her, and I didn't. I really didn't love her at all. And in the Bible, it tells wives to respect their husbands and husbands love your wife. And like I said earlier, I wasn't loving her, so my wife had no reason to respect me. So it was just a vicious circle, just complete misery. And all these things were going through my mind, and I was questioning everything that I had done and my future plans. And the one thing that I realized was I needed to give up on my plans for the future. Um, by the way, at this point, I had already quit my job. I was just ready to move on, and I'm thinking, man, this is crazy. I have no income coming in. I needed to be in Massachusetts within just a week or so. And I realized I can't go. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I couldn't go. And so now I'm just angry. I'm angry at the whole situation. I'm angry at myself. I'm angry that things got this far. And so all this was happening on a Sunday. Monday, my wife and I go out to run some errands, and we're just we're just fighting in the car. And I get on the phone and make some phone calls, and I say, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to go." And man, and it that phone call went bad really fast, as you can imagine. Um, Turned out, they it turned it into a conference call. They made some emergency phone calls, and so now I'm talking to multiple people at the same time, explaining to them, or honestly, not explaining to them why I can't take this position. All I'm telling them is that I'm not going. And my wife is listening to this. She was in the car, and I am just listening to the anger and disappointment on the other end of the phone, and I'm thinking there's nothing I can do. Saying I'm sorry wasn't going to be enough. Um, like I said, I was supposed to be in Massachusetts in a very short amount of time. And I really screwed them over. And I'm really sorry about that. I just left them hanging. Um, but I knew that it was important for me to do that. So uh, I just I pulled into this one parking lot, and I knew it was a church. But like I said, it was Monday, and there was nobody supposed to be there. So I'm thinking, okay, the parking lot is a safe place to just park and finish up this phone call and continue arguing with the wife. Um, so then cars started pulling into the parking lot, and I'm thinking, okay, that's odd, but whatever. And more cars started pulling in, and then the church got opened, and I didn't understand why, but I'm trying to finish this painful phone call. Um, as I'm watching these cars come in, and finally I hang up and I get out of the car. And my wife says, "Where are you going?" And I says, "You wanted me to lead you to Jesus, right? Follow me now." I got out, I grabbed her by the hand, and we walked into the church. We were greeted there by the person running Vacation Bible School. And I told them I'm just looking for a place to pray. They pointed me to the pastor. And at this point, I am sure that I looked like I was up to no good because I had just thrown away everything I had wanted almost my entire adult life. I threw away the one opportunity that in my thought, the one opportunity I had to really be happy, to finally achieve everything I wanted, to finally be on top, to be respected, to almost even be admired. I had just thrown that all away, and I'm trying to figure out why. So I am so angry right now. And I walked up to this young pastor. It turns out he's the same age as my son. And I'm walking up to him like I just want to end the world and set fire to everything around me. And I ask him, and my wife and I just want to go inside and pray. He just stepped aside and said, "Yeah, go ahead." So my wife and I go to the back of the church, and we sit in the pews. And I prayed for the first time as a man that had given up. I was done trying to figure things out on my own. I was trying so hard to push my way to success, and I had achieved quite a bit, but I always wanted more. And I know the devil tempted me with my dreams because he wanted to destroy that which God created, marriage. And he was very close. He was so close. But I sat in that pew, I bowed my head, and I prayed for God to fill me with love because I had none, to fill me with understanding. And I told him, I have no idea how any of this works. I don't know how to be a husband. I don't know how to be a Christian. I I don't know how to be a son of God. I don't know how to humble myself and step aside and let God take over. And that was my prayer for 3 months. For 3 months, I attended that church angry, just hoping to one day get an idea of how this all works and how it all fits together. It wasn't till just before I got baptized. So this was in July. We were baptized in November. Maybe 2 weeks before I got baptized was when things started making sense, when love kind of started flickering in my heart. And I kind of asked myself a question. It's like, when was the last time you made your wife feel loved? When was the last time you made your wife feel beautiful? When was the last time you made your wife feel special? These are things that had never really occurred to me. And as soon as I started making her feel special, and making her feel loved, and making her feel beautiful, things changed immediately. I no longer felt like I was married to the wrong woman. I no longer felt disrespected. I no longer felt angry. As the days go or went on, I started feeling more and more love. And it's now to the point where I can barely contain it. I love my wife so much. And a year ago, I didn't. And this was nothing I did. This was nothing I did. We were baptized on a Saturday. The very next day, my wife and I renewed our vows. And I remember when I saw her walking down the aisle, I started tearing up because she looked so beautiful and I loved her so much. And that's something I had never experienced in my life. I could never imagine that I was going to love my wife, period, much less love her as much as I love her now. And this is because I truly gave myself to God. And I gave up trying to figure it out on my own. I hurt a lot of people on the way. I know I did. And for that, I am truly sorry. And I know I'm never going to be able to make it up to you. But for all those people that I hurt, I honestly hope that you guys find the love and happiness and that you guys find Christ. I really do. I hope I hope you guys can feel as much love as I do. That you can humble yourself before God and just let go. Climbing the corporate ladder isn't everything. Focusing on money isn't everything. Focusing on your personal desires isn't everything. Humble yourself. Realize that you don't have all the answers. Realize that if you're married and you hate your situation, that it's up to you to change it. You are with the woman you are with because God desires it so. So if you feel like you're in a bad situation, then it's probably your fault. Truly look at yourself. What are you doing wrong? When was the last time you told your wife that she's beautiful? When's the last time you told your wife that she's special? When was the last time you made your wife feel loved? Because it wasn't until I did that that my marriage started getting better. Give yourself to God. Give your marriage to God. Realize that she is a daughter of God and that she should be treated as such. I wish I could honestly describe how much better my life is now, how much happier my wife is, and how respected and heard and even admired I feel now. I just hope that you can feel what I feel. And I'm telling you, if you're married out there and you're having a hard time, give yourself to God. And I promise you, it's going to get so much better. Tell your wife that you love her. Tell your wife that she's beautiful. Make her feel special. So this is Tony with Fountain of Light Ministries. Love your wife. Love God. And just give up and let God take over.